Good evening. My name is William Hicks, and I live with the Lorax who speaks for the trees.
You're going to pay for that.
I know I am. I know I am. But somebody has to. My home does back up to the proposed Coral Lake subdivision. I'm sorry, Mr. Whitehouse, if you would open up D. Cernuda, his presentation. You can leave that up because I'll get to that in a minute. But it should say, I think, either Dave Cernuda or DC. Perfect. Thank you so much. And you can go to that first slide. Next slide. There you go. I'm here today in opposition to this subdivision. The property is unsuitable for the proposed development, and I'd like to show the Commission and fellow attendees a few of the reasons why. My first slide is of the National Wetlands Map produced by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Note the large areas of wetlands present. It's easy to estimate that approximately half of the proposed site is covered with wetlands of one type or another.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm not asking you this to make you angry or to disrespect you in any way, but it sounds like you're getting ready to testify as an expert on wetlands. You're going to get. Do you have credentials that do you have some expert credential on wetlands?
Just the research I've done, sir.
Just your own research.
Exactly.
Okay. We've heard a lot about wetlands already this evening, and much of which we understand might be contradictory, but this body up here hears these types of things frequently. We're familiar with what the law is regarding wetlands and what the applicants are required to do by our ordinance, and our staff tells us that that we're in compliance and that the testimony that's being presented by the experts is accurate. We're probably going to accept that. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to make your point about the wetlands, but let's get to the point. Because I understand we've seen these maps 100 times. We know all about the maps. We also know that that's not what controls. Okay, that's not the last word. That's the first word. Okay?
Exactly.
The last word is the jurisdictional determination from the Corps. That's the last word, and that's the word we have. So we're not going to relive this. Okay, we have a jurisdictional determination on this property. So the wetlands have been decided. It's been decided.
Okay,
So,
well, the point was I was leading up to the flooding that we currently see now.
Okay, now I'm going to address that with you.
Okay.
The flooding that you currently have now, okay, that's not a problem for this developer, okay, or for any developer. It's not a problem for the property that you don't own, okay? And where that water is coming from and where it's going, I don't know, but it's not the subject of this hearing. Your drainage problem on your street is not not the subject of our hearing. Now, I understand that you may wish to express a concern or opine, or if you have expert testimony that says that this development is going to make your situation worse, then we want to hear about that. Okay, we want to hear about that.
And I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to get there. Thank you.
I'm going to ask you to get there.
Okay. All right. Jump up to slide two slides. Let me see here. Okay, this is from page 142 of the application, where the engineer acknowledges the presence of 76 acres of wetlands on the site.
Okay.
And that the southern parcel will be drained via a culvert beneath Aintree Drive. So then if you would go to the next slide. This is a picture of that. We've seen this before. This is a picture of that culvert. This is Sarah Run, where it enters the culvert that goes under Aintree Drive. What we're concerned with is the fact that because Sarah Run is one of two outfalls in the proposed development, what will that do to exacerbate our flooding problem? If water is coming down through, if this is what we have now, what is outfall from Coral Lake's going to do? And how is that going to be managed? We need to know how that's going to be managed.
Well, what I can tell you is that the law prohibits them from making your situation any worse than it is today. The law absolutely prohibits them for allowing any water from their site in a quantity greater than it is today to run onto your site. So the answer to your question is that's what the law says. What the reality is going to be might be different, but the design of any system has to be done with that in mind. I mean, that's how it has to be designed if this thing even ever happens, because that's what we're here to decide.
Right.
We're here to decide if there should be a housing development there in the first place. So we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but that's what the law says, okay? And that's, at this point, that's really all we can tell you, and I suspect that it's all anyone can tell you.
It was brought up because it was a concern where we read in the project that a stream that runs through our neighborhood is going to be connected to the outfall of their stormwater drainage system.
Absolutely.
We're just looking for answers to that question.
Right, I agree.
It is interesting, as we were talking about wetlands a little bit, the type of soil that was there. It's interesting to note that the wetlands delineation report prepared by the developer's consultant did not make any mention of the clay presence. And a potential reason might be, and this I don't know, is that the borings were completed only to a depth of 20 inches when they were made. If you would go to my presentation, Mr. Whitehouse. B. Hicks. Thank you. If council approves the Coral Lakes Cluster subdivision, over 1,100 dwellings will front on Robinsonville Road for the 2-mile segment between Route 24 and Barnwell Drive, the entrance to Tidewater Landing. These include Acadia Landing, Beech Tree Preserve, Chase Oaks, Tanager Woods, and Tidewater Landing. Excuse me. Coral Lakes would be the largest and would add 315 dwellings attempting to cross Robinsonville Road and already add to an overburdened country road. These 315 homes, as has been said, will only have a single entranceway, and it will be within a quarter mile of Tidewater Landing. It'll be right next door to Tanager Woods. It'll be a quarter mile from Chase Oaks. So we have 1,000 homes dumping onto Robinsonville Road within a quarter mile section. Robinsonville Road and the surrounding roads are not capable of supporting this traffic load. The comment's not anecdotal, but supported by two of the most recent traffic studies completed for the area. Next slide, please. The JMT traffic study was completed for the subject site and transmitted to DelDOT on 1/22/22. The study was based on 4,303 vehicles per day, and the study identified numerous loss of service deficiencies, LOS, as summarized by the table on page 288. That's where this table comes from. As you can see on this chart, each X represents a loss of service, which in DelDOT speak is a traffic tie-up. DelDOT is constantly trying to improve the local system, but explosive growth in the area has made the task almost impossible. Now, if you couple these ever-increasing local traffic problems with the regional traffic problems, we get a big picture vision of the traffic chaos that we are experiencing. Next slide, please. This is from DelDOT's 2017 traffic study, and it details the worst observed traffic congestion in Sussex County. These maps detail that area in reds and yellows. They are one and the same as the regional routes that encircle the Coral Lakes location. Route 1 to the east, Route 9 to the north, Route 24 to the south, and 113 to the west. Next slide, please. The study found that in some areas, travel in high-demand conditions can take 5 or 6 times as long during uncongested periods. During peak summer hours, if drivers want to travel from Lewis to Rehoboth Beach, they need to plan 45 minutes for a trip that they could make in 8 minutes during uncongested conditions. This is more than 5 times longer than the baseline travel time. Coral Lakes will obviously increase traffic both locally and regionally and add to our existing problems. As many of us know, Robinsonville Road is a relatively narrow 2-lane road for the entirety of its length. The Cape Henlopen School District reports several school bus stops along this road. And with 1,000+ homes being added to that, there will be several more school buses traveling along its length. The increased traffic generated by Coral Lakes will pose an increased risk to the students who have bus stops on Robinsonville Road. Since the proposed site is primarily investment level 4, the state will contribute little or no funds to improve infrastructure and emergency services. The local municipality will be forced to pick up the cost for added law enforcement, fire, and medical services. The development of Coral Lakes Cluster Subdivision poses significant flooding risk and potential home damage in the adjacent areas, and will only exacerbate traffic congestion in the area. The site is unsuitable for development, and I request that the Planning and Zoning Commission make a negative recommendation to the Council regarding the Coral Lakes application. That concludes my presentation, and I thank the Commission for their valued time, interest, and consideration.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Okay, who's next?
Can I ask a question?
Sure, yeah.
Do we still have DelDOT on the line?
We do.
Yeah, Brock and Brown? Excuse us for a second. We're tuning in to the electronically to our DelDOT representative. Mr. Brockenbrough, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Great. We have a question for you. Ms. Wingate has a question. Go ahead.
Good evening. Can you tell us, are there any plans for any road improvements on Robinsonville Road or any of the roadways going towards Robinsonville Road?
Robinsonville Road is in the Henlopen Transportation Improvement District. So in that sense, there are plans. We have concept plans for improvements. We do not have a DelDOT project currently.
Okay, but the studies are being done in consideration.
Right. As you may know, developments within the district pay fees which are collected and can be used to can be put towards DelDOT projects. We do not have one created for Robinsonville Road at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Okay, who's next? Yes, sir, with the green, and then